Live from Nakatomi Plaza, this is Derailed Trains of Thought. Hello, Tim.
Hola.
It is winter.
Yeah, it is winter.
Even here.
It's somehow Christmas again. How'd that happen?
I don't know. Well, at least it's always winter and always Christmas for us.
Sure.
I'm sure. Well, in Christmas, we only mean good things.
I should think so. I mean, they're having a fun Christmas party downstairs. I can't see how anything can go wrong.
No.
I mean, we're in like 1980s America. Like everything is
perfect.
peaceful and calm. There's no terrorist activities going on.
No, not like in the 2000s, so we're good.
Yeah, so yeah, we'll be safe here. So thank you, podcast.
Yes.
You brought us someplace nice for a
And
change.
maybe we can get some more gifts or something. Yeah.
Sure, why not?
I'll get a gift and I'll take it home for Valentine's Day.
Yeah, maybe some nice slippers.
Yeah, there we go.
Something nice for your feet.
For your feet, yeah, in case they get cold or
Yeah.
stuff. Anyways, how's you been, Tim? How's
How's you been? I've been alrighty. How you been?
I's been good.
Well, we're off to a great start here today.
Too much eggnog. So, yes, how have you been?
I'm hanging in there, trying to manage the long distance relationship stuff.
Oh, fun.
The nice thing is sometimes I get to take a train over to Chicagoland.
And you just take the podcast over one of these days.
Well, the podcast doesn't seem to want to help me out with that.
No, it's kind of stubborn.
I mean, the train is kind of fun because it's like you just get sit back, relax, watch some Disney Plus or read or what have you, and
Nice.
just let the scenery pass by you.
The train is very nice from, where you go from South Bend?
Waterloo.
Waterloo?
Yeah.
It's not. It's a nice shot.
My neck of the woods, that's easier.
That's true, yeah.
Yeah. Kendallville, I guess it would be kind of.
Well, we do Waterloo's still closer, but I've done the South Bend before because, I don't know, some reason.
Okay. But yeah, it's nice to have Amtrak in your backyard.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
And interestingly, I've done it twice now. We did it once in December, and I did it once just last weekend here in February. I didn't know if February would be less people there because I figured December probably have some people Christmas shopping and things like that. But no, there was still a good crowd taking the train to Chicago over the weekend and coming back. So
I always see the Amtrak come through town between 8:30 and 9 and through Kendallville,
Yep.
unless it's running late.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's always interesting to go through Kendallville from that perspective. It's like, oh, I've never actually been on the tracks before.
Yeah.
So.
Good. Okay, Tim, it's now time for Story School. So today we're going to talk about active protagonists, which is a fancy way of saying heroes who want to get things done.
Get things done. Now, I guess a question. Do you think there's a difference? Another term I've heard used for this is the strong-willed protagonist. I remember in reading about classic Hollywood storytelling, the strong-willed protagonist was the person who had this burning desire to get something accomplished. I guess similar to active. Is that a term that you've heard from?
I don't know. I've heard it a lot, but it makes sense, especially in the movie/TV biz, because it seems to me that protagonists are particularly monomaniacally driven.
Monomaniacally?
I don't know, driven on one thing.
Okay.
I don't know. That may be the wrong use, but they usually.
I think it's a cool word. I just never heard it used before.
Well, let's talk about the strong-willed protagonist to begin with.
Okay.
So, by definition, this is sort of, and they say this is a good thing, that you want your protagonist to make proactive choices to move the story forward, not to have stuff happen to him, but to do things.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Basically, the protagonist wants something, and he has a strong determination to get it.
And again, this makes good story because we like to have characters that we can like cheer for, and that we like our heroes to be better than we are, not as,
Right. And the thing that he wants may not necessarily just be a greed thing, although sometimes that is, got to find the treasure, Uncle Scrooge. But more often in an action scenario, it's to protect someone, to save the country, to rescue his kidnapped daughter.
to find the Ark of Covenant.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, and again, it makes really good action movies, especially. And I think it focuses the plot. It's moving forward at all times. It doesn't stop because, one, you have a want, a desire, and the protagonist will do anything. And again, you get people who are like, nothing will stop me from saving my daughter. Nothing will stop me from fill in the blank.
I guess you could even say it in like romantic movies, like romantic comedies. Say When Harry Met Sally, I would say the main thing that the protagonists are both looking for is love. They don't know where to find it, and they take some interesting routes to get to it.
Now, that's an interesting sidetrack here with the romantic comedies. You think those protagonists are as strong-willed? Because sometimes it seems like things happen to them. Like part of the comedy is the fact that they get themselves into situations.
That's true. I mean, it depends on the movie, for sure. I mean, for some reason it came to mind. And When Harry Met Sally, they're both constantly dating the entire time. They're dating other people.
So they're very strong-willed, proactive in that case.
They're being proactive in that sense. Now, there'd be other ones where, I guess, while you were sleeping, where she just kind of stumbles. I mean, she had a person she was very interested in, but as far as the situation that launched the series of misadventures, that was kind of outside her control.
Okay, so before we go on the less active people.
Okay. Because there are stories that have less active people?
There are stories, and apparently that's a no-no in script writing.
Uh-oh.
But I know of some. I've written some. But let's talk. So I think generally this rule of thumb, and I think it's a rule of thumb, and not it's like when we talk about active and passive voice. Active voice is normally good, but it's not like you always need it. There are times not to. Mm-hmm. So generally, I think an active protagonist is encouraging. It keeps the plot moving. It has a sense of tension. There's a sense that I am the captain of my own destiny, sort of thing. And then when things happen, they react. They don't just moan and mope and all the such things.
It's easy for the audience to root for the person who has a very clear goal in mind.
But I do think that there are times when we get protagonists that are too proactive.
Too proactive.
Or too strong-willed, maybe is a better way to say it.
Okay.
It happens in TV shows sometimes. So I watched this show, the first first season of Manifest, and I haven't watched it since.
I think it's still going on.
Yeah, though. I think it is, and I don't know what's going on now.
Okay.
But Prince Charming, his name is Ben. It's from Once Upon a Time, Prince Charming.
The
actor. What is his name? Dallas?
Oh, you say that now, I just blanked a bit. Someone would tell me, and then I'd be like, yes, that's his name. Dallas. I want to say Williard because of a book that Janelle and I have been reading, but that's not right. He was a theologian.
Anyways, Ben in the show.
Okay.
That's his name.
Okay.
So the point of Manifest is that they were on this plane, and the plane disappeared for 5 years, except people on the plane didn't have any time go at all, and they come back, and 5 years have passed. And
Interesting scenario.
And he's dedicated. He's going to figure out what happened. And you want him proactive because otherwise you wouldn't have a story if he wasn't purposely trying to figure out what happened. But the lengths he will go through to try to make you like a normal person would never do this. Like he will just throw himself like it's always like I have to do this, even though you're like, dude, just wait a second and like spend some time with your wife or something, you know. And sometimes Kate in Lost would show up this way.
I was just thinking of Kate. It was like that sounds very much like Kate.
The sense that like she has to do something, but in such a way that some viewers no longer say go. They're like, stop being dumb.
Yes. You're throwing yourself in a danger for dumb reasons or even like not thinking to make a smart choice, just doing something. She's almost like doing something the most dramatic because she can't think of any other way to do except blunt force sometimes.
And I think, unless your point is to purposely highlight someone who is lacking some sort of sense of
common sense
or whatever, I think it can be a detriment to have a character that moves beyond normal, what people would consider even like a hero would do. Unless you just, you built a Liam Neeson who will, I have a special set of skills and it's for your daughter. And there's certain goals people will forgive a lot more. Mm. A lot of it has to do with saving a wife, saving a kid.
Yeah. There's there's a time and place where you can't be polite. You don't ask questions. You just punch the bad guys and keep moving. But then, there's other times when like you could use more subtlety here than a concrete block to the face.
And I think TV becomes old just because sometimes you see it episode after episode. And like in a movie, you can like, oh, okay, for this event, they're on. But when like every week they're this intense, you're like, that's a lot of intensity.
Sure, that makes sense.
So generally, proactive is good. Overly proactive can be, I think, can make people just annoyed.
That makes sense.
But I do think you can make perfectly good stories with more passive characters against the rule of thumb.
The ones that aren't sure what they want to do.
Yeah, I mean, the most famous probably is Hamlet.
Yeah, we've talked about Hamlet before.
Yeah.
He's torn throughout the entire play about what exactly he should do and never really comes to a conclusion before everyone dies.
And again, that's the point of Hamlet is that. So
Classic case.
the moping is part of the story. But then you have people like, a lot of misadventures are this way. Bilbo Baggins. At least for the first half, he's just sort of like, okay, he's pushed into things. I just want to go home and have some breakfast and and basically until the Mirkwood, he's not particularly proactive. He just kind of reacts. But it works because of the type of story it is, and partly because he grows.
Yeah, he grows. And would you say he grows from being a passive character to a more active character over the course of the story?
I would think so. I mean, because after once Gandalf leaves, he basically becomes the leader of the party.
Yeah, essentially. He kind of has to caretake all the ridiculous dwarves.
Yeah, because early on you think, these dwarves know what they're going on. Gandalf are, and he's just along for the ride. And then he's basically... especially, with the elves, he gets them all out of jail, and then he sneaks in with the dragon. I mean, he basically, after Mirkwood, becomes the guy.
Yeah. Would you say your character, Obed, kind of follows a similar track?
He does, yes. Probably highly inspired, obviously, not intuitive. I mean, more intuitively by Bilbo.
Than purposefully.
Yeah, because he's thrust into it, and then he just does what he has to do because he's supposed to.
He does it out of obligation at first, but then the longer it goes... He would say it was still just out of duty, but for everyone else, it's clearly like, no, you're taking your obligation, your oath to a much deeper extreme than the common person would.
Yeah, exactly. And especially after his conversion moment when he falls down the well and comes out.
For anyone who's not aware, folks, we're talking about Obed, a character of Nick's from his book, The Unremarkable Squire.
Which unfortunately you cannot get at the moment.
It's out of print.
It's out of print because of the publisher. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sad.
I gotta get back out. But yeah, I think he would follow that tone. Probably the most extreme passive protagonist I've ever seen would be Bartleby the Scrivener, which is a short story by Herman Melville, where the guy, I don't know, I guess the protagonist is the narrator, but it's basically about this guy who shows up at work. He wants to get the job to be a scrivener, and he just doesn't do anything. Like he just kind of sits there, and they'll like ask him to do something, like he just says, I would prefer not to. And the whole story is largely about the whole idea of like loving your neighbor, does it apply to this person who basically just
won't do anything?
Yeah, it's an interesting story. There's a guy in Sir and Fred model after him, Bart, the secretary, who basically just always says, the only line he really has for the whole first book is, I would prefer not to, which is stolen from that short story.
Well, that sounds pretty close to the most passive. Another possibility, the stranger.
Yeah, the stranger would be very much on the same
I don't remember if he has a name.
I don't remember. It's been a long while since I've read.
But the main character from the book, The Stranger by Albert Camus.
Things just happened to him basically until he.
Yeah, I mean, his entire philosophy is this very existentialist, like nothing I do matters. I'm not gonna, so he doesn't do anything.
So it's interesting. In some ways, the default is the active character. But to say your character always has to be, I think, eliminate some things that are worth talking about in stories.
Yeah. I mean, those two we just said are very extreme on the passive side of things.
The extreme, you're making a point if you go that extreme.
Yeah. It's not your typical story. You're having a very... Yeah, those are both very particular about either a philosophy in the stranger's perspective or... I guess I feel like you couldn't. The Stranger is probably the longest you could do that sort of story
without him changing.
Yeah. I think probably more common is going to be the Bilbo type.
The kind of, I guess, kind of comedic in some ways. That we're like, because tragedy is like I make all these choices and things go wrong anyways. Comedy is like, I didn't mean to do this at all, and I just, 7 with 1 blow.
Wow, deep pull from Mickey Mouse there.
Yes. I'm glad you caught it. I wasn't sure you would.
I remember that cartoon. Good job.
But, comedy works really well for things happening, and you're just like, what do I do with this? And sometimes, a lot of times that they're more passive and things happen to them, it changes them. It either makes them more realize what they've got or a little more proud, or sometimes, if it's more serious, maybe less cowardly.
I guess I should ask this while it's on my mind then. Does that indicate then that, well, I guess in some stories it would indicate then that as a person you want to be going from passive to active? Is there a situation though where a protagonist was just your normal average sort of person and he kind of went back? I mean, Bilbo certainly became active, but then when he got home, he kind of went back to it. Not that he wasn't wiser and smarter than he was before, but he was also pretty content to just stay in his hobbit hole.
Yeah. And I wish I knew an example, and there probably is one I read, but now that you say that, it seems like there are certainly places for stories where the learning is to learn to stop trying. The sort of like
being more satisfied with where you're at sort of thing.
Or even understanding that you have to trust other people to take care of it, or not you, or God, or, some sort of...
Yeah.
I guess there's one scene in Wheel of Time where he's constantly like, I don't want to, he has to save the world, and it's so hard, and all these people die for him, and he doesn't want to accept it. And he basically just kind of runs away and ends up like on this mountain and kind of has an epiphany sort of thing. Mm-hmm. It's a little tiny arc of that, but I think there's probably longer books of that sort of like...
Yeah, because I know this is an archetype that I've heard of, a story type that I've heard of before, but yeah, I'm having a hard time finding a good... Well, I mean, you have these stories sometimes about like the businessman who is constantly active and is missing his family. So in that sense, you have someone who's very goal-oriented, very active, but is missing an important element of his life.
Yeah. I was trying to think through if Howl's Moving Castle has any of this with her getting old, but I don't know that it does quite. Because she's still pretty active.
Yeah, I think she...
I just remember that scene of her sitting by the lake being like, learning that there's also certain joy in not, but...
I don't know that qualifies. That's just kind of a quiet moment in the middle of
which is
the
more
story.
just Miyazaki.
Being awesome.
Being awesome. But yeah, I do think a part of it is that many stories, especially when we talk about visual medium and like popular stories, is that we want larger than life characters. And so the active is part of that, not that. And so we kind of idolize these, the super go-getter, where if he was a more mediocre person, he wouldn't be the star of the movie.
Yeah.
And I think there are places to discuss such things, but I don't know that it is natural to the bigger, more popular stuff.
Yeah, which is an interesting conundrum. One thing that occurred to me a little earlier is that a lot of times sidekicks are the more passive characters, like your Dr. Watson, who's a very important character, but he's largely there to watch Sherlock Holmes and provide some commentary, things like that. He's not the active one or the strong-willed one.
Yeah. Or Passepartout.
Yeah, that's true. From Around the World in 80 Days. Mm-hmm. But it does strike me as unfortunate. And again, like we said, it's obviously the active protagonists are fun. I mean, we talked about movies, but also that's a huge deal in a lot of anime.
Yeah,
and it's all about getting stronger and being able to protect my friends.
And most genre fiction.
Yeah. So it's tricky to think about how do we include, because from a Christian perspective, obviously strength is good, but there's also Christianity places a high value on being a servant.
Being a servant and patience and self-control and a lot of things that are not very flashy.
Yeah. The flashy stories capture our imagination and help us to think about it's hard to do big scale things without having someone who's very active in a sense. I think that's one of the tricky things about, like, say, Star Wars. Yoda is like adventure, excitement, a Jedi craves not these things.
But we do.
Exactly. And I remember some people talking about like poking fun of the people who were upset at Luke's journey in Last Jedi, which I won't go into details here. But like we're like, well, Jedi are Zen, so it's the perfect Zen thing. Why would you think that this movie should be different? It's like, well, because it's Star Wars. Yeah. We've come to expect adventure and excitement. So it's
I guess we're kind of conflating active protagonists both for being like strong and decisive versus also just making decisions. And like you can be active in the sense like you're choosing not to do something as opposed to being passive, where you're just kind of like a jellyfish being moved around.
That's true.
But again, most times for movies and scripts, by active they mean you're doing things.
Yeah. You're a strong person.
And again, like from going from a Christian point of view, when you have the whole armor of God thing, and then but he says so you can stand, and then finally just stand. You're not attacking, you're not doing anything. It's just the entire point is just stand there. Actually, I did write a story like that one time, a long time ago. There's a Twilight Dawn story about ended with stand.
Oh, yeah, okay, I remember that one.
And it was based on that verse in some ways, but I think showing strength in withholding, in patience, in not having to fix it right now is a much harder thing to pull off in a story that isn't all about that.
Yeah, it's the sort of thing that comes out more in probably family dramas. The slow-paced, the mother who waits for her prodigal son, essentially.
There's a great deal of active strength in that, but it's very different than what they tell you to write in film school.
Yeah,
necessarily. I mean, I'm exaggerating the point, but
yeah.
Again, in a movie, you don't want that.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. I guess I don't really have an answer for that. Just it's food for thought for me right now. In that, like, I mean, because especially since you and I are very much steeped in geek culture, and I see that kind of talk a lot, and sometimes I feel it's kind of wearying.
What talk?
Well, talking about having this comes up with like female characters a lot, about wanting them to be strong female protagonists.
Oh, yeah.
Where does she get her strength, and is she active to the plot? And that makes sense, because I know there's a good argument to be made for a lot of women in genre fiction being more props.
Yeah, and that's not good.
And that's not a good thing either. But sometimes the whole emphasis on strength, and this again, male or female, feels like it's overlooking these other elements. And I think it'd be an interesting challenge for Christian writers working in genre fiction to explore where else we get our strength.
Yeah.
That strength is not just found in ourselves, but and our identities are not just found in ourselves, but in God.
And there's more than one way to be a proactive protagonist. It's not always, let's break into the bank, let's save my son right now. There's other versions. So it's interesting. We certainly have to work outside the normal structures that are set up in our popular imagination, but I think there's ways to do it. So
that's
what I got.
Food for thought. This is one I feel like I don't have like the last one was like I have a definite opinion on this certain matter. This one is like this topic is more exploratory, and like there's some interesting things here. There's some tricky challenges, I think, that could present a Christian writer.
Here's I guess, kind of a midway point. I was talking, so my daughter loves Kiki's delivery service.
Okay.
And that's an interesting one, because in one way she's proactive in the sense that she goes to the city, but then she's just sort of learning to be there. It's an interesting combination of like just day-to-day life and sort of going with the thing while also taking responsibility for everything that comes into her sphere.
Okay. I mean, that's active in a different, I mean, much more humble goals in a lot of ways. And I think it's just like I'm making a living for myself.
And I think there's something really special about that you don't see in a lot of other, especially in animated things. But yeah, I don't know. I just want to throw that because that's an interesting, because she certainly is not passive.
Yeah. I feel like that used to be the how to make a way for yourself used to be a more common story thread. Like I remember the Boxcar Children books. A lot of
great books. Yeah,
a lot of that was just about. I mean, they added mysteries to them, but initially they're just about kids basically. Like even after they get adopted by a rich uncle or something, a lot of it is still like going on vacations and cooking for themselves.
It just being your own
self, and or like Swiss Family Robinson, which I just watched on Disney Plus the other night, and I was like, man, it's a fun movie because there's a lot of adventures that happen to them. But it's like a lush survival movie, because it doesn't feel like the sort of survival movie of like they're you just barely scraping by it. No, they're like stranded in a paradise.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and it's just fun to see this family kind of bonding and doing life together.
Yeah. I guess my only summary is the easy thing about active protagonists is there's always another conflict. And that's conflict's the name of the game for most
Nowadays,
things.
especially.
Yeah, nowadays especially. So, all right. So I guess we'll go ahead and just leave it there and go to our soundtrack.
For soundtrack today, I thought it would be fitting, talking about active protagonists, to go with one of video games' most well-known, fast-moving protagonists, Sonic the Hedgehog.
Dun dun. Now it's his own feature film.
Yeah, that's right. So this is also coming out this month. Timely. So this is a remix from the original Sonic the Hedgehog video game. This is called Still in Your Marble Zone. This is by Diggy Dis, and I hope you enjoy. And we're back.
Hello.
Howdy. Hope you enjoy the groovy tones of Sonic.
I very much did.
Yeah.
I like that song a lot.
Fun stuff. Fun stuff.
All right. So next, we are going to go to a segment we haven't done a lot called Challenge Accepted. All right, Tim, this was your concept.
Well, it's been a while since we've done Challenge Accepted. I think the last time we did it was in the Realm of Derailed Thoughts.
Against Zach and Brianna.
Yep, good time.
And we won.
Times. That's right. By working the rules just right.
Well, yeah, exactly.
But today I thought it'd be kind of fun to try something we're going to call Name That Protagonist.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which is not too different from when we did Challenge Accepted 96, where we did Name That Monologue. There's kind of a theme here. But anyway, since we've been talking about protagonists all the time, so the idea here I thought was to describe a protagonist's story in very vague terms to see if the other person can figure out who it is.
So give us your example.
Okay, so my example was this is a boy who grew up on a farm with his uncle and aunt and dreamed of going to the academy, but his uncle won't let him. And based off just that brief summary, Nick
Jack Ryan. No.
Maybe. I don't know Jack Ryan's backstory, to be honest.
I don't know.
But
That would be Luke Skywalker.
Luke Skywalker. I mean, yes. I didn't say anything about deserts or spaceships or anything like that.
Just very vague, bare bones.
Yeah. So the goal here, we'll take turns at this, and
gotta
whoever
see how my creative juices are flowing tonight.
and we'll just see. My idea was just see how many each person can guess within 20 minutes or so we play.
Okay,
this.
let's try this thing.
All right. I purposely tried not to plan ahead too much, so we'll see how this goes.
I didn't plan ahead at all, so we're good.
Exactly. That was on purpose.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say for my first one, this is a 6-year-old who lives on the street but is well taken care of, gets an opportunity to move across country and be adopted by a family. So he does, except he finds out he doesn't really fit in with them at all. And so he takes a cross-country journey to get back to the street where he was from.
I'm like all the audience like, is this? And I'm like tickling the back of my brain.
I'll even say the street he's from is in New York.
New York. This sounds like American Tail. No.
He's in. I'm trying to think.
Yeah, I might just have to get struck out here. I'm going to kick myself when I hear this thing.
Give up.
Give up.
Big Bird. That's from the Sesame Street movie. Follow That Bird.
Okay, I would not have gotten that one, but I do enjoy that quite a bit. That's good.
Any other hints would have given away too much.
Yeah.
So I was being extremely vague there.
So wait, Big Bird's a 6?
Yeah, they say he's a 6-year-old.
I did not know that. I mean, I knew he was a kid.
That's why he's kind of, yeah. That's the story.
But I mean, it makes sense. I guess it's just never heard
He's been 6 years old for like 50 years, so.
Birthdays don't happen very often, apparently.
I guess. I don't know how that works exactly.
All right, I think I got one. All right. This guy, he lives with his 2 brothers. He has an annoying neighbor that comes over a lot. He's trying to get this internet business. He had kind of this advice column. He has a pet that he takes care of who is a little larger than life.
Okay.
This is kind of cheating, but I'm going to do it anyways. He's kind of part of a small town.
Give me a little bit about, does he have an ongoing story or is this episodic?
It's episodic.
Okay. Okay, let me think.
He tends to be, likes to cause chaos with the other people. He has a certain sort of like distinctive look.
Wait. He's a blogger, you said?
Basically. Well, yeah, he's an advice columnist, basically.
Advice columnist.
Loosely.
I'm drawing a blank here.
All right, so strong bad.
I don't know if okay, he has his stories, so where he's a protagonist.
I know, it was a little cheaty, but I just thought it was great to say he has 2 brothers and an annoying neighbor.
Okay, that's fair. You got me there. Advice columnist.
He answers emails, yeah, sure.
Okay.
I had to do a humorous one. Okay, go for it, Tim.
Nice job. Okay.
The other ones are not so cheaty.
This is probably too easy, but I'm going to go with another one about a kid that is not really well understood by his parents, his next door neighbor, or his teacher at all. He gets into lots of conflicts with all of them. He has a stuffed animal he takes everywhere and seems to be his only confidant.
It is Calvin Hobbes.
Yes, it is.
I love it. That's a great. Early on, I'm like, is this Charlie Brown? And then he said stuffed animal. I'm like,
yeah, I
okay.
figured the stuffed animal would give it away right away.
But you got to.
I have to include it.
Yeah, exactly.
So okay, there you go. You got one.
All right. So it's about one of 2 sisters, both royalty. They're trained in philosophy and things, and then the one gets married. And the other one is largely distraught by this.
Okay. 2 sisters, both royalty. Now, I haven't seen this, but this isn't anything to do with Maleficent. does it?
No. You know this.
Okay, I know this. Okay. Huh. Okay, this has got to be just staring me at the face.
Purpley vague. Okay, ready?
Yeah, give it to me.
This would be Till We Have Faces with Oriole.
Oh, okay. Deeper pull. It's been a while. Okay, I was trying to think. Is there like a fairy tale? I'm not.
I mean,
thinking of-
it's kind of fairy tale. It's pretty close.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. You could have given me a little more detail there. I
Probably. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what other detail to give. It was hard to.
This is tricky because you got to find the right or the right amount of like vague and like this is this being fair or is this
Yeah.
or is this too obvious?
Yeah, I'm like, do I say Greek? I was thinking about that.
yeah. Okay, you ready for this next one?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, this is a story about three academics who have basically their academic professions are kind of shriveling. They're not doing very well, but they have discovered this new type of pest, and so they go into a pest control business and wind up protecting the city during a certain kind of plague that's causing lots of havoc in New York.
So, wait, 3 or 4? It sounds a lot like Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it starts off. There's three of them.
Okay.
They have to-
didn't realize
They have to hire the fourth one later
I
on.
love
'cause they get
I love
busy.
the pest. That's pretty great. I'm like, I'm not sure. But, yeah. Okay.
Ghostbusters. Good job. You got 2 so far.
All right. So, young man, kind of clumsy, kind of artistic, has a journal. He'll draw pictures and stuff in. Has a brother. They end up meeting one of their people's sworn enemies and going off with her to help save basically the royalty of that nation.
This sounds like the Dragon Prince.
This is the Dragon Prince. I thought I'd do a more obvious one today.
Yeah.
That would be Callum. Yeah.
Yes, Callum. Yep. Nice. Okay, we'll try this one. There is an evil scientist who basically starts terrorizing this woodland forest area, imprisoning a bunch of the inhabitants. One of the woodland creatures rises up and has to collect golden artifacts in order to foil this evil scientist.
Golden art. Oh, yeah. First I was like, it's Smurfs. Golden artifacts threw me off, though. One of these woodland creatures. Golden artifacts.
I'm being very vague with this one because you're ahead.
No, that's fine. No, I was super vague on mine. I think it makes it more fun. It's like, you ever see on Facebook when they'll be like, write the worst version of this.
Yeah.
So, woodland creatures imprisoned by a mad scientist.
Yes.
And then one of them, just one, rises up.
He gets a sidekick or two.
Okay. And it's golden artifact. That's what's throwing me off. And again, I'm sure it's something. Can you tell me whether this is a cartoon?
Yes.
Okay. Not Fern Gully. Is it?
No, it's not.
I
Ferngully.
don't remember anything about that movie.
I'll say the cartoon, the golden artifacts are not as significant as other versions of the story.
Oh, interesting. Huh.
I believe they're still in there, but they're not
not-
emphasized as much.
Oh, interesting. I don't know. Give me that one.
Well, you talked about this one earlier. Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh. Gold artifact.
The rings.
That is awesome. I love that. All right, let's see if I can say this correctly.
Okay.
All right. So a pair of thieves are attempting to uncover a criminal mastermind when one of them meets a girl from his past.
This sounds like Lupin.
It is Lupin.
From Castle of Cagliostro.
Yes.
Nice.
I had to get Lupin in there.
Okay. We'll try this one. This is a man who works for, it's not exactly clear what his agency is, if it's private security or if it's kind of like a security / advocacy.
Okay.
It's a little vague, but it's a private company essentially. But he goes traveling around the world on adventures using his wits and his ability to make the most of the objects around him to get out of hairy situations.
It goes on adventures. But yeah, at first I'm like, oh, it's like DuckTales, but there's not advocacy group. Adventure stuff makes me think it. I don't think it is. I haven't watched DuckTales for a long time.
No, it's not. Unless it's the
I want gold.
the Scrooge McDuck retirement fund.
which he doesn't need.
No.
Drat goes around the world with his wits and the objects he finds. Very MacGyver.
Yeah, you got it.
All right.
MacGyver.
You know, I couldn't remember the setup of MacGyver.
Yeah, he works for the Phoenix Foundation, but I can never remember, at least in the original series.
Yeah.
I don't follow the new one much because it's modern and boring.
Yeah.
But like the Phoenix Foundation, like sometimes they're like helping people get out of the East Germany, and other times I feel like they're helping like the local youth center. So I don't really remember that they have a very specific, well-designated role.
All right. So, man has a wonderful life, good wife, friends, and he just feels like there's something missing, and he thinks someone might be watching him. That's literally the entire show.
Really? I was like, you got to give me something else.
Okay,
here.
okay.
Like,
and every once in a while, he feels like he just wants to leave his hometown.
Oh, Truman Show. Truman. I was like, wait a minute.
That's actually the whole show, Tim.
It's like, I feel like you need to get, especially as we've been talking about active protagonists, we need a little bit of hint of what the plot is, I think, for these things.
But that is the plot.
Well, yes. I mean, eventually you got to it. Initially, you just told me a situation.
Well,
like,
yeah, that's most of
is that his beginning? Well, yeah. I guess you could say it's about his search to find out who's watching him.
Yeah.
I guess.
But yeah.
But okay. I'm gonna give you one
Yeah.
but I think it'll just be fun to summarize and brief anyway. So this is from a story. Two young people, generally speaking, forbidden love. Their father won't allow them to be anywhere near each other. The father of the woman, of course, but he gives the man a task to do it, to basically to get this this long lost artifact back. In order to do this, he's basically going to have to go into hell itself. Except, surprise for the dad, the girl goes with him into hell to get this artifact. Artifact is probably not the most accurate word here, but
that's fine.
It's a code word for something valuable.
It's a code word for something valuable. And what do you say, hell, you're meaning literal or figurative? Or you can't say?
It's about as close to literal without being literal.
Okay. See, now that you told me, now I feel dumb. You're like, you'll get this one. And I'm like, forbidden love. Go get this for me. I mean, it seems like every Greek myth, but
I'm sure it was inspired by those.
Yeah. I don't know.
Oh, you know this.
I know.
You give up?
Yeah.
Baron and Luthien. I thought that would be too easy.
No, I wasn't. I was not there.
It's one of those things, like if you're just not in the right mind space.
Yeah, because you're like, I got stuck on the Greek and then couldn't move to a different myth.
Mm-hmm. Oh man, Baron and Luthien. It's from the Silmarillion, folks. It's a great story.
Everyone should read the Silmarillion, or at least Baron and Luthien.
Yeah.
And then if you wanted to be depressed, Turin Bomb, which is a great story, but depressing as all get out.
Yeah. I wonder how well someone could jump into Baron and Luthien. I bet the novel would probably be more approachable.
That's probably true. I've not read it. Have you?
I haven't. I just wonder sometimes.
Probably takes the context a little more.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of context you'd have to know.
Oh yeah, because all the places and all the people have histories.
Yeah.
By the time you get there.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right. So are we time for more? Or are we?
Yes. I've lost track of how many. I knew we should have written this down.
We're both winners. Congratulations.
I think we have time for maybe. Well, let's see. I started, so that means you should at least do one more.
One more. Okay. Okay.
At least.
All right. Last one. I don't know if it's good or not, but here we go. Obese man accused of attempted murder and theft and polygamy.
I don't remember his name, but this sounds like Man Alive.
It's Man Alive. I just like the summary. He sounds like a horrible book. You say it like that.
It's not.
No.
Was he obese though?
He was very large. I don't
very
know.
Big,
I just did it for the.
I couldn't
summary.
remember. In my head, he was just like a big dude.
I just assume he looks like Chesterton.
That's fair. I mean, I guess for me the fact that since he traveled around the world and I always just assumed he was really well fit. But
Yeah.
it makes sense for a Chesterton to self-insert.
So not hard, but I love the summary because it's like, go for it.
This is just for the fun.
Yeah.
I thought of one. Okay, so there's this man who is super into his hobby, and he basically takes cosplaying way too far and tries living out the life that he's read about. And he gets someone to join him on his adventures in reenacting this life. Tends to go through pretty horribly, and he goes through a huge series of misadventures and basically dies disavowing his hobby.
I love it, but really good.
Depending on the version, I've heard some. There apparently are some versions where he redeems it, but I think in the original version of it, he dies disavowing his hobby.
Oh, it's like Don Quixote.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nice. You put it that way, it sounds. I mean, it is kind of depressing.
I've heard them like this is some sort of really like artsy superhero movie, but
I gave it away a little bit too much in my explanations there, but
well, maybe. But the other version, I'm like, oh, I thought it must be a book then, not a,
yeah.
But I was just thinking about Don Quixote the other week for some reason. But so yeah, it's protagonists are much less interesting when describing that manner.
As vaguely as possible.
They do things,
Yeah.
Sports team, down and out.
It's like the minimalist book covers.
Yep. Well, and then it's like you're supposed to sell your book in like the 5-second elevator pitch. Again, you make them a little better than that. But I suppose if you're still man line, be like, man accused of and and like, okay, yeah, I'd read that book, and then it's
not.
Short people leave town to find jewelry.
Great Muppet Caper?
Lord of the Rings.
Oh. Oh, that's great. I love we keep those both kind of are accurate.
They both are actually to find jewelry. It's the rephrasing what they're going for that's the best part.
Right. Yeah. If we had more time, we could look up some interesting. They like twist it into it's technically accurate, but you're missing really the whole point of the story. With some of those fun describe a bad movie things or describe a movie badly.
Yeah. Anyways, so Tim, contact info.
Of course, we are still at derailedtrainsofthought.blogspot.com. So if you want to stop over there, leave us a comment, or if you would like to leave us your brief, vague description of a protagonist, see if we can name that protagonist, challenge us.
Yes. Challenge accepted.
Indeed. Do so. Again, derailedtrainsofthought.blogspot.com.
We're on iTunes and Stitcher and Spotify. Feel free to leave reviews.
Yes.
Tell people.
Your reviews are very helpful. Oh, and which does remind me, we should give a special shout out since we did listener feedback last time and I forgot to mention it. We do have a couple reviews on Apple Podcasts, which is awesome. One of them is, of course, from one of our longtime friends and big fan of the podcast, Nathan Marchand.
Oh, yes.
So thank you, Nate. But then we also got one from...
we should plug here his Monster Island Film Vault if you would like to hear about kaiju movies.
That's right. But back in December, we also got a review from a listener named Shannon Byrne.
Oh, I know her. Yeah, I went to high school.
Am I saying that right?
Byrne.
Okay.
Yeah.
She just said, Nick and Tim are the best, funny and very interesting and funny. So we're funny twice. So
that's awesome. Hey, thank you, Shannon.
Yeah. So join the conversation. I mean, like I said, reviews are a great way to get people's attention.
And spread the word if you like us, because it spreads best by word of mouth, I think, honestly.
Yeah. You know your friends better than we do.
Yeah.
So if you think they would be interested in our shenanigans.
Unless we're your friends, then we know your friends okay.
Well, yeah. Well, true.
Okay. Anyways, Tim, it's my soundtrack.
It's your soundtrack. What are you talking about?
So I had to go with some Maze Dude because I can always go for some Maze Dude. But so River City Ransom was this game where you had to go get your girlfriend, so you beat up all kinds of gang members in 2D glory.
That was the basic plot of 98% of fighting games back then. You have to go rescue your girlfriend
Yeah.
who's been kidnapped.
And they just beat people up and throw them around and
Back when life was simple.
exactly.
I guess there's a recent beat 'em up game that came out where you play as two girls who have to go rescue your boyfriends who got kidnapped, which
That's
is
hilarious.
kind of fun.
But I also went in like an aggressive song. So this is called River City Ramstein. Am I pronouncing that right? Ramstein. It's
have
a
no
it's a
idea.
group, like a heavy metal group,
Oh, okay.
or was. I don't know if they're still around or not. But it's a lot of fun and it's very Maze Dude. And I hope you rock out. So enjoy.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for listening, folks.
Are there some gunshots?
I think I hear some gunshots. Yeah, down in the lobby. I hope everything's okay.
Yeah, and podcast. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, I thought we were going to go somewhere safe for a change.
Yeah, I don't know.
You never know. Anyway, see you later, folks. Until next time, this is Tim.
This is Nick.
Yippee-ki-yay.